Hi, so I have a really big book haul today. I went to my favorite book sale in my area, which happens once a year. It's like a hospital fundraiser sale, and last year they had 100,000 books. I think this year they had like 70,000. It's really awesome. You line up like hours in advance, and it's my favorite. And I was able to get over 70 books, and I've got a lot of really awesome ones, and most of them are vintage and pretty, and I think that they're all great. Some are for me, some are for my kids. Most are for my kids, but a few of them are for me. And yeah, keep watching if you would like to see what I got. Okay, so first thing, I have these Peterson field guides, and I collect these. At this point, I'm only really collecting, just for the space of sake, the Peterson field guides, which are like a little bit more in depth than the golden guides. And they have these really beautiful green cloth covers, and I think I have like four, and now I have three more: field guide to western birds, field guide to the mammals, and a field guide to the birds. And then we have my absolute favorite and my kids' favorite golden field guides. These work really well. I'm always able to find like pretty much anything in my area where I live. The illustrations are really beautiful, and not just beautiful, but actually helpful for finding what you need. I actually find illustrations in field guides easier than photographs because there's something like it's like a clearer way to see. And these get so much use in my house. I have actually already owned these. Actually, I had Pond Life a few years ago, and it fell apart because the unfortunate thing about these old bindings is they're not very sturdy and they fall apart, unfortunately. But I usually pick them up for like 50 cents to $1, and my son is looking at these constantly. I can't emphasize enough how much we love these. Okay, Fables by Arnold Lobel. I surprisingly didn't own these. I like everything that he's done. This is his take on Aesop's Fables. My son is obsessed with Aesop's Fables, and we've actually been reading a couple of these like every single day. Okay, Green is Growing. This was cool. It goes through basically everything in the plant kingdom, including fungi and mushrooms. Talks about that a little bit. Algae, which I actually find it pretty difficult to find kids' books that talk about those things, and they're really quite interesting. Fox Went Out on a Chilly Night by Peter Spire. We like everything by him. This is a song. And actually my friend at the book sale was like, you have to get this. I can't believe you don't own this. It's gorgeous. Blaze and the Mountain Lion. These are like easy readers about a boy and his horse. This is obviously a reprint, but yeah, it seems like it would be a good option for boys who are new readers, or girls if you like horses. Sharks. My son loves sharks. Anything with sea creatures. The Velveteen Rabbit coloring book. We love this story, and I love finding vintage coloring books that are unused, and I find them all the time, to be honest. This is really cool. It's like one of those old how to draw books. It goes like by month or seasonally, so it starts, yeah, this was supposed to be used like in school to learn how to draw, and I like how simple it is because some of the other how to draw books, they're just a little bit more advanced, and I feel like this is really good for like a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, and I love that it's seasonal. So I was really excited about that. Winter Valley Forge. We love history. We love beautiful black and white line drawings, and this is probably a few years out that we would be reading it. But I've seen this series, I think this is a whole series, before. I think we own a couple of the other ones, so I'm just kind of collecting those. Babushka and the Three Kings, this has been on my list for a while. It's a Christmas story. It I believe, yeah, it's a Russian folktale. We always love like cultural folktales. It's a great addition, great way to learn about other countries and cultures, and bonus that it's seasonal. Where They Go in Winter. This is one of the ones I was most excited about. It's been on my list for a while because it's something I'm curious about. Where different animals go in winter. And it just goes through all of that. I've actually had this like in my cart on eBay for a long time, and I'm glad I found it for, you know, like $1 or whatever I paid for it. Snakes, Fights, Rabbits, Fights, and More. Book about animal fighting. I mean, what little boy wouldn't love this? Once again, beautiful pen and ink line drawings. And I just love nature study books. They're my favorite category of books, and I was really excited to find a lot of them at this sale, because I don't always. One Small Square Pond. This is another series that we actually really like. I got the other one, I think it was like Seashores. My son has been looking at these a ton and like asking me about them because he loves like anything in the water, ocean, and the illustrations are just beautiful, and there's so much interesting information in here about everything that lives in a pond. This was another one of my favorites, Crinkle Root. These are by Jim Arnosky. He has a whole series of Crinkle Root books. They've been out of print for a really long time, so unfortunately, like if you buy it online, it's really expensive. So whenever I'm able to thrift them in person, I always grab them. And we just like love Crinkle Root. He's such a character. Where Butterflies Grow. This is another in a series. The other one we own is called The Snail's Spell. And we love butterflies and caterpillars and any bugs at all, really. So this is going to be a hit, and it's absolutely stunning. Amazing World of Butterflies and Moths. I believe this is also part of a series. Amazing World of series. It's absolutely stunning. Another one of these Billy and Blaze readers. Another reprint with the horses. Peter Spire's Christmas. Okay, I already said, I think I got 3 Peter Spire books. I always pick up anything by him. The illustrations are beautiful. This looks like a wordless book. From Seed to Plant, Gail Gibbons is another author we really like for like any sort of children and preschool nonfiction. Just full of tons of information. I always learn something from these too, not just my kids. Wonders of Nature, picture book. America's Paul Revere, Esther Ford, pictures by Lynn Ward. I recognize the illustrator Lynn Ward. He illustrated The Biggest Bear. I always pick up any books that I find by him. This is probably a few years out, like more in-depth historical fiction. Or actually, I don't think this is historical fiction. This is just straight up nonfiction. But Esther Forbes was like a writer. I think these were probably from the 50s or 60s. Oh, 1946, so it's from the 40s. Obviously a reprint, but absolutely beautiful and engaging history for the kids. And then Men of the Mississippi. I always buy anything by Halling C. Halling. Once again, there's just so much here. I love all of these sidebar illustrations. They're just so beautiful, and we learn so much from these. Like, it's just jam-packed. This is one of those books that you want to go through really slowly. And I think the CMAC assigns this in your Form 1A or 1A upper or lower, something like that. I'm sure we'll read it and narrate all of that. Mill by David McCullough. We love these. We have the Cathedral Pyramid. Anything by David McCullough. How Things Work. That was one of my husband's when he was a child. Okay, next we've got Mythological Creatures, a pictorial dictionary. We love mythological creatures. This is just a really fun one and has really inspiring black and white line drawings for, you know, kind of working on our own illustrations. And any mythological creature you could possibly want is going to be in there. Number stories. This is another one I've seen a number of people like on YouTube and other social media discussing, and it was actually in my cart for a while. This would be like a good math supplement. What I love about these old math books is they are like readers too, so they're written on like a first grade level, so the kid can actually read them themselves. This isn't like it's comprehensive. It doesn't cover like time. It's not I don't think it's like a full math curriculum, but it's like a fun supplement, especially if your kid likes monkeys. Animal Weapons by George Mason. This is another part of a series. The other ones, we have a couple of other ones like Animal Homes, Animal Parents, Animal Tracks. These are probably more for like a 5th or 6th grade reading level, but just really beautiful drawings, and they're definitely like a living book, and they're pretty expensive if you buy them online. So that was another really fun find, and with the dust jacket too. Child's Book of Animals. We love this author, Kathleen Daly. We have another one of her books. It's called Ladybug, Ladybug, and it's just a story. But what I love about that book is it has all of the like different insects, and in the back it tells you what they are. So it's a story, and then it tells you exactly what they are in the back. And this is a series that I've also been having in my eBay cart for a while. And there's Child's Book of Animals, Child's Book of Insects, Book of Birds, Book of Reptiles, I believe, and then a few more, but I was really excited to find this because I've been wanting them. It's kind of hard to find like field guides for really young children. There's not that many that I'm aware of. So this will be a fun one. All About Monkeys. This is another series, the All About series. We collect them, and they're just like a good nonfiction book series for probably like upper elementary. Native American Indians, just absolutely beautiful picture book. Haven't looked at this one too much, but just looks like it gives really great information. Oh, and it talks about sign language. Very cool. Okay, so I found several of these vintage Let's Read and Find Out science books. This is one of my favorite series, and I was so excited that I found like the original 1960s editions, because I find them fairly frequently, but there's a lot of these. They're still in print, but the new ones, they redid all of the illustrations, or most of them at least. And I really like prefer this, 50, like mid-century illustration style. I know like maybe some people don't, but I think it's really beautiful. And these are fun too because they're also pretty easy readers, and they give so much good information about science and nature study. We absolutely love these in our house. George Washington's Breakfast by Jean Fritz. I also collect all of these Jean Fritz like historical fiction books, and he has one about like Ben Franklin, a lot of like really good American history. And I love that it was Paul Galdone was illustrated it too. He's one of our favorite illustrators. We have so many of his books. State Birds and Flowers by Olive Earl. Olive Earl is another one of those authors that her books are so expensive online. I've only ever found another one in person, but yeah, you can see why. They're just absolutely stunning. Swiss Family Robinson and Robinson Crusoe. These are the Junior Deluxe editions, which I'm basically trying to collect all of them, and I find them quite frequently, actually. They are usually pretty cheap and common, and I think these were done in the 1950s. The illustrations are great. You know, they're not like abridged or anything, and they look like super cute on your shelf, which is fine. These are all just basically children's classics that you would not want to miss, so I always pick these up when I find them. Stories of Birdland. This is like a really old vintage reader about birds. What's the copyright is 1896. So that was a fun find. Okay, so I found several of these I Can Read books. Little Bear's Visit. I think we had this, but it was like falling apart. Audie and the Star, Egg to Chick, and Mouse Tales, which I've never found, by Arnold Lobel, another one of our favorites. I usually buy like the I Can Read books, or at least the ones with the authors that I know that I already like. I don't buy every single one, but I find these everywhere. This was kind of a fun find, like Ranger Dan. These are also easy readers, and they kind of reminded me of like a knockoff of the Cowboy Sam books, which are harder to find, but just like adventure stories geared towards boys who are learning to read, which is what I have. G.A. Henty, True to the Old Flag, Tale of the American War of Independence. This is really interesting, and it's been on my radar for a long time because it's the only children's book I know of that tells the story of the American Revolution from like the British perspective, and I love that. I mean, like, I'm not gonna say I'm against the Revolutionary War. I don't really know. I wasn't there, but I love that we can read the perspective of the other side too. I think that's really neat. Clyde Robert Bulla is another great author for new readers, and I always buy his books. Folk Stories. This is like adult reader, and it has like all of those classic stories: Three Little Bears, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Little Red Hen, and looks like it would just be really good for extra reading practice. The Mystery of the Loch Ness Monster by Jean Bendick. Jean Bendick is a really fabulous author who did a lot of like science and nature study books. Some are still in print. We love like, you know, the Loch Ness Monster and the Yeti and learning about all of that, so couldn't resist that one. Draw 50 Animals. This is another series. I think we have like Draw 50 Trucks and Trains, but these are really great for learning to draw. I always pick these up when I see them. People by Peter Spire. I think like I'm amazed that I didn't have this book. I think I had this when I was a kid and I just loved it. My son loves it. He loves like any sort of like chart or diagram with like lots of stuff. He actually thought this was like one of those like search and find books. It's not, but I think it's like a really good introduction to like world cultures and religions. Beautiful. And then The Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen. Pictures by Susan Jeffers. She's a really wonderful illustrator. Just a classic fairy tale. Okay, and then my last stack that I have here are books like for myself to read. So this is all about anatomy. Bill Bryson is a great author. He's highly recommended, and I love like nonfiction, popular nonfiction books like this. I guess that's what you would call them. So I'm excited to read this. Another Bill Bryson, A Walk in the Woods. I actually, when I was at the book sale, I didn't see it, but I heard people that were like in line behind me. They're like, "Oh, you have to read this. It's so funny." And I was like, "Okay, like for $1, I'm not gonna say no." I found my first John Marr books. John Marr was like a naturalist. He's supposed to be like one of the great naturalist writers. I don't know what year this is from originally. It's old. It's like at least 100 years old, but I'm excited to read it. Hunter-Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century by Heather Hein and Brett Weinstein. I love their podcast, so I couldn't say no to that. Something Old, Something New by Tamara Adler. I love her cookbooks. This is like An Everlasting Meal is, if not my favorite, one of my favorite cookbooks ever. So I was really excited to find this one. And I actually started reading it. It's kind of about like old forgotten recipes, like weird jellos and stuff that are actually good that we should like revive. I love that idea. Another John Marr, Travels in Alaska. History of Philosophy by Copleston. And I always buy these Doubleday Image books. I have a whole shelf of them. And they're like Catholic paperbacks that were brought back into print. Old Catholic books can be really expensive and hard to find. So the Doubleday Image ones are great for like collecting some of those classic writings without like spending a ton of money. And then I also love these modern library editions, The Consolation of Philosophy, Imitation of Christ, and Religio Medici, all classics. I did read Consolation of Philosophy. It's a really short, these are all short, that's why it's combined. I thought that would be a great one to have. The Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. I love anything that he wrote. This is like really dorky, but it's about like statistics, and yeah, it's awesome. And then this is the one I have been reading every day. It is so good. It is basically like New York Times journalism articles from the 90s, all about insects. And because my son is so obsessed with insects and constantly asking me questions, I feel like when I read this, I always learn like a ton, and I can help better answer his questions, and I find it really interesting too. So yeah, that's everything I have. I tried to be like somewhat quick so it wouldn't be like the longest video ever, but I spent a little under $100. They were like really generous at the checkout with me because I was buying mostly kids' books and they want kids to read. And it's for charity and, you know, they want you to come back. So yeah, that is my like probably biggest book haul of the year. And I really found some gems, and I hope you got some ideas from this for things to like look for online or in person. And I love seeing other people's book hauls, so I couldn't resist filming this one. I'll talk to you guys later.